Michael Jackson. A man whose voice crossed every border, whose music united generations, and whose influence transformed popular culture forever. He was called the King of Pop, a title so powerful that decades after his passing, no one has truly replaced him. But for all the records he broke, all the stadiums he filled, and all the history he made, one question never stopped following him. Who was Michael Jackson when the cameras were gone? For decades, millions of fans believed there was one truth about Michael Jackson hidden behind the headlines. Now, 27 years after his death, has his daughter finally confirmed what people suspected all along? The answer may not be what anyone expected. To understand why Paris Jackson's words have resonated with so many people, we first have to return to where Michael's story began. Long before the sold-out world tours. Long before Thriller became the best-selling album in history. Long before the fame that would make him one of the most recognizable human beings on earth. There was a shy little boy growing up in Gary, Indiana. Born in 1958, Michael was the seventh of 9 children in the Jackson family. Music filled the household, but so did discipline, pressure, and expectations. From an early age, Michael displayed a talent so extraordinary that it stunned even the adults around him. While most children spent afternoons playing with friends, Michael spent countless hours rehearsing. The world would eventually see a smiling performer. What it didn't always see was the sacrifice behind that smile. By the time he joined the Jackson 5, Michael wasn't simply a talented child. He was becoming a phenomenon. Audiences couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The voice, the charisma, the confidence. It seemed impossible that such a young performer could command a stage with the authority of a seasoned entertainer. Success arrived quickly, and with it came something Michael would spend the rest of his life trying to navigate. Fame. At first, fame looked like a dream. Millions of records sold. Television appearances. International recognition. Fans screaming his name. But fame has a hidden side. The larger Michael Jackson became, the smaller his private world seemed to grow. As the years passed, his success reached levels few artists have ever experienced. Albums like Off the Wall, Bad, Dangerous, and especially Thriller changed music history forever. Thriller alone became a cultural phenomenon unlike anything the entertainment industry had ever seen. Suddenly, Michael Jackson wasn't merely a singer. He was an institution, a global symbol, a once-in-a-generation force. Yet while the public celebrated the performer, Michael himself often spoke about loneliness. Friends, colleagues, and people who knew him described a man who sometimes struggled with the reality of living under constant observation. Every appearance became news. Every rumor became a headline. Every decision became a public debate. Imagine living in a world where millions of strangers believed they knew you. Imagine being analyzed, criticized, praised, and judged every single day. That was Michael Jackson's reality. And perhaps that is where the mystery truly began. Because the public image of Michael Jackson became one of the most debated images in modern celebrity history. Some people saw a musical genius. Others saw an eccentric superstar. Many believed there was a hidden side of him that the world never fully understood. The more famous he became, the more people speculated about who he really was. The headlines often focused on controversy. Television programs dissected his appearance, his lifestyle, and his personal choices. Reporters chased stories. Commentators offered opinions. The world developed countless theories about the man behind the fame. Yet those closest to him often described someone very different. A deeply creative person. A sensitive individual. A man who carried emotional scars from childhood. Someone who never entirely escaped the pressures that began when he was young. Over time, a fascinating contradiction emerged. There was Michael Jackson, the global icon, and there was Michael Jackson, the private human being. The gap between those two images seemed to grow wider every year. Fans wondered which version was real. Critics wondered the same thing. And perhaps no one would be in a better position to answer that question than the people who knew him away from the spotlight. His children. For years, the public knew relatively little about Michael's role as a father. He guarded that part of his life carefully. Whenever possible, he tried to shield his children from the intense scrutiny that had followed him since childhood. Many people found this secrecy unusual. Others believed it reflected a father's desire to protect his family. Regardless of the reason, Michael's children grew up largely hidden from the world. Then everything changed. In 2009, the world stood still when news broke that Michael Jackson had died. The shock was immediate. The grief was global. Fans gathered in cities across continents. Radio stations played his music around the clock. Television networks interrupted programming. For many people, it felt impossible. How could someone who seemed larger than life suddenly be gone? But during the public mourning, another moment captured hearts everywhere. A young girl stepped forward. Her name was Paris Jackson, and in a brief, emotional statement, she revealed a side of Michael Jackson that millions had never seen. Speaking through tears, she described him as the best father anyone could imagine. The moment was short, yet it left a lasting impression. Because suddenly, the world caught a glimpse of Michael Jackson not as a superstar, not as a celebrity, not as a headline, but as a father. And for some observers, that moment raised an intriguing possibility. What if the real Michael Jackson had always existed beyond the public image? What if the man known by his children was different from the version discussed endlessly by the media? Over the years, Paris Jackson would grow up and begin speaking more openly about her father. Each interview, each memory, each reflection, added another piece to a puzzle that fascinated fans around the world. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. A picture that challenged some assumptions, supported others, and fueled a question that still lingers today. Was Michael Jackson fundamentally misunderstood? Or were people finally beginning to see the man behind the legend? As Paris grew older, she would share stories that offered rare insight into life inside Michael Jackson's private world. Stories filled with love, lessons, discipline, laughter, and surprising revelations about the father she knew. But one particular theme kept appearing in her memories. A theme that would eventually lead many people to believe she had confirmed what fans suspected all along. And when Paris finally began speaking in greater detail about the man behind the music, the contrast between public perception and private reality became impossible to ignore. What exactly did she reveal? And why did her words resonate so deeply with millions of people around the world? The answer begins with the memories only a daughter could share. When most people think of Michael Jackson, they picture sold-out arenas, moonwalks, screaming crowds, and record-breaking success. Paris Jackson remembers something else. She remembers bedtime stories. She remembers lessons about kindness. She remembers a father who wanted his children to understand the world beyond fame. And as she grew older and began speaking publicly, those memories started revealing a side of Michael Jackson that millions of people had never truly seen. 4 years after her father's death, Paris remained relatively private. The world watched her grow up under extraordinary circumstances. After all, being the daughter of the most famous entertainer in modern history comes with enormous pressure. Every interview generated headlines. Every public appearance attracted attention. Every statement about Michael Jackson was analyzed by fans and critics alike. Yet when Paris did speak about her father, one message appeared again and again. She described him not as a superstar, not as a cultural icon, not as the king of pop. She described him as Dad. And that distinction matters. Because while the public knew Michael Jackson through performances and media coverage, Paris knew him through everyday moments. According to her interviews over the years, Michael worked hard to give his children experiences that felt as normal as possible. That may sound surprising considering the extraordinary life they lived. But Paris has repeatedly explained that her father wanted his children to appreciate things many wealthy families take for granted. She recalled how he taught them the value of earning things rather than expecting them. Despite having access to immense wealth, Michael reportedly emphasized humility and gratitude. He wanted them to understand that privilege should never replace hard work. For many fans, these stories reinforced a belief they had held for years. Behind the spectacle, there was a thoughtful and caring person who deeply valued family. Paris has also spoken about how protective Michael was. Not only physically, but emotionally. He understood better than almost anyone what fame could do to a child. His own childhood had unfolded under the spotlight. He knew what it felt like to lose privacy. He knew what it felt like to be judged before having the chance to discover who you truly were. Because of that experience, many believe Michael tried to give his children something he rarely had himself: a childhood. Paris has shared memories suggesting that her father encouraged creativity, imagination, and curiosity. He wanted his children to learn, to read, to think independently, to understand people from different backgrounds and cultures. According to Paris, he often exposed them to realities beyond their privileged environment. He reportedly showed them both beauty and hardship in the world, not to frighten them, but to teach empathy. And that detail is important, because one of the most common themes in Paris's recollections is compassion. She frequently describes her father as someone who cared deeply about others, someone who felt genuine concern for people who were suffering, someone who believed success carried responsibility. Over time, these stories began forming a consistent picture, not necessarily a perfect picture, but a human one. And perhaps that was exactly what fascinated people most. For decades, Michael Jackson had been portrayed in extremes. To some, he was a flawless genius. To others, he was endlessly controversial. Yet Paris's memories rarely fit either category. Instead, they described a complex human being, a loving father, a dedicated artist, a person carrying both strengths and struggles. As Paris matured, she became increasingly willing to discuss how profoundly her father's death affected her. Losing a parent is devastating for anyone. Losing a parent while the entire world watches is something very few people can understand. She has spoken openly about grief and the emotional challenges that followed. And in many of those conversations, one fact became unmistakably clear. Her bond with Michael Jackson was extraordinarily deep. She often described him as one of the most influential people in her life, not simply because he was famous, but because of the values he tried to teach her. His lessons stayed with her long after he was gone. His voice remained present in her memories. His guidance continued shaping her decisions. Years after his death, Paris would still speak about him with remarkable emotion. And audiences noticed. They noticed because her words didn't sound rehearsed. They sounded personal, authentic, the reflections of a daughter remembering someone she loved. As more interviews accumulated, many fans felt their long-held suspicions growing stronger. For years, people had wondered whether the public image of Michael Jackson captured the full truth. Paris's stories seemed to suggest otherwise. Again and again, she described a father who was warm, attentive, and emotionally present. Someone who cared deeply about his children. Someone who made them feel loved. Someone who devoted significant energy to their well-being. Of course, none of this erased the controversies that surrounded Michael Jackson throughout his life. Those controversies remain part of the historical conversation. But Paris's perspective offered something different. It offered insight into a relationship that existed away from cameras, headlines, and public debate. And that perspective mattered because it came from someone who lived it. Someone who experienced Michael Jackson not as a public figure but as a parent. One of the most emotional aspects of Paris's recollections involves the ordinary moments. Not the grand events. Not the celebrity encounters. The simple memories. Conversations. Advice. Family experiences. These are often the details that reveal who people truly are. And according to Paris, those moments revealed a father who was actively engaged in his children's lives. A father who wanted them to learn. A father who wanted them to feel safe. A father who wanted them to understand their worth. As these stories spread across interviews, documentaries, and public appearances, an intriguing pattern emerged. The image Paris described closely resembled what many devoted fans had believed for years. They believed Michael Jackson's private character was often overshadowed by sensational headlines. They believed there was more to the story than the public usually saw. And now, Michael's own daughter appeared to be offering evidence from her personal experience. Not through dramatic revelations, not through shocking confessions, but through consistent memories. The kind of memories that accumulate naturally over a lifetime. Yet the most powerful part was still to come. Because as Paris reflected more deeply on her father's life, she began addressing a question that had followed Michael Jackson for decades. A question larger than fame, larger than controversy, larger even than music itself. Who was Michael Jackson at his core? What kind of human being existed beneath the costumes, performances, and endless public attention? Paris's answer would not arrive in a single interview. It would emerge gradually through years of reflection, piece by piece, memory by memory. until a remarkable conclusion began taking shape. A conclusion that many fans believed confirmed what they had suspected all along. That behind one of history's most misunderstood public figures was a man whose deepest identity had little to do with celebrity, and everything to do with love, compassion, and family. But what exactly did Paris ultimately reveal? And why do so many people believe her words changed the way Michael Jackson's legacy is understood today? The final answer lies in the lessons she says her father left behind, and in the emotional truth she continues to carry with her nearly 3 decades after his passing. As the years passed, Paris Jackson continued sharing memories of her father whenever she felt ready. And with each interview, a clearer picture began to emerge. It wasn't a picture built on rumors. It wasn't a picture built on tabloid headlines. It was a picture built on personal experience. Again and again, Paris described Michael Jackson as a father who was present in her life. A father who taught lessons that had nothing to do with fame and everything to do with character. She has spoken about the importance he placed on kindness, education, gratitude, and treating people with respect regardless of their status. For many fans, this was the moment when the mystery began to feel less mysterious. For decades, countless people had believed that the real Michael Jackson was hidden behind an image created by constant media attention. They believed there was a more compassionate, more human side that rarely made front-page news. Paris never claimed her father was perfect. In fact, her reflections often make him seem more human rather than more mythical. She described someone who made mistakes, carried emotional wounds, and faced extraordinary pressures. But she also described someone who loved deeply and cared intensely about the people closest to him. That contrast is what makes her words so powerful. Because Michael Jackson spent most of his life being viewed through a lens of celebrity. Nearly everything he did became public discussion. Yet the version Paris remembers exists outside that spotlight. The father who encouraged her dreams. The father who wanted his children to think for themselves. The father who tried to prepare them for a world he knew could be both beautiful and unforgiving. And perhaps that is what many people believe Paris confirmed all along. That beneath the costumes, performances, and worldwide fame was a man searching for the same things many people seek. Love, acceptance, family, and peace. Today, Michael Jackson remains one of the most influential entertainers in history. His music continues to reach new generations. His performances are still studied. His achievements remain almost impossible to duplicate. But for Paris, his legacy is measured differently. It lives in memories, in lessons, in values passed from father to daughter, in moments the public never saw. Nearly 3 decades after his death, debates about Michael Jackson will likely continue. History often examines great figures from every angle. But Paris's perspective offers something uniquely valuable. A daughter's view of the man behind the legend. And when all the headlines fade, when all the speculation quiets, that perspective may endure longer than any controversy ever could. Because in the end, Paris Jackson did not reveal a shocking secret. She revealed a deeply personal truth. The Michael Jackson she knew was not simply the king of pop. He was her father. And through her words, the world gained a rare glimpse of the human being behind one of the most famous names in history. Perhaps that is why his story continues to resonate. Not because he was larger than life, but because, beneath all the fame, he was still human. A son, a father, a dreamer, a man whose music changed the world, and whose memory continues to live on through the people who loved him most. And maybe that is the lasting lesson of Michael Jackson's story. Fame can shape how the world sees a person. But sometimes, the people closest to them reveal a truth that fame never could. A truth not found in headlines. A truth not found in records or awards. A truth found in family. And 27 years after his passing, that truth may be the most powerful part of Michael Jackson's legacy.